The Gemara says in Baba Basra, the Gemara says that tzedakah shkula keneged kol mitzvahs, that tzedakah is the equivalent of all the mitzvahs. And moreover, b'chol Talmud Yerushalmi, and the entire Talmud Yerushalmi, he nikras b'shem mitzvah stam. When it wants to talk about tzedakah, it doesn't even say tzedakah; it just says mitzvah. Whenever it says the word mitzvah, you know it's talking about tzedakah, because that is the mitzvah. Kikacha yehergel halashon. That's the way they used to speak. That was the vernacular. Likri tzedakah b'shem mitzvah stam. They call tzedakah by the name of mitzvah, because it is the ideal mitzvah, the prototypical mitzvah. So why is it? Why is it that tzedakah shkula keneged kol mitzvahs, that tzedakah is the equivalent of all the mitzvahs? When we say that it's the equivalent of all the mitzvahs, that means that whatever all the mitzvahs are, tzedakah has all of them combined. How? How is tzedakah the equivalent of pidyon haben? How is tzedakah the equivalent of eating kosher? Like what's the connection? It's a bunch of different mitzvahs. And this has been Adam Lachaveri, many of the mitzvahs are bin Adam Lamakim. What does it mean that tzedakah is the equivalent of all the mitzvahs? You want to say it's a very important mitzvah? Fine, I accept that. But what does it mean? What does it mean that it's the equivalent of all the mitzvahs? Which makes it sound as if whatever every mitzvah has, tzedakah has that also. It's the equivalent, it's the same thing. And why is tzedakah such a great mitzvah? Why is tzedakah the hardest, such a hard mitzvah? Why is it so hard to give tzedakah more so than other mitzvahs?
Coming out of your sweat.
Because what?
It's coming out of your sweat.
It's coming out of your sweat. But to put it into different words, you put your entire neshama into that dollar. This dollar isn't a dollar. This dollar represents me waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and running out of the house and having to go to catch an early minyan and then running to work and spending all those hours of work and all the pressure at work and everything and my deadlines.
And the abuse too.
And again, regardless the abuse that you get at work, and regardless of what kind of work that you do, people put their entire being into their money, into their paycheck. And then when you go and you take that dollar and you give it to tzedakah, you're giving all of that. You're being maila all of that. Or to put it in different words, if the function and the purpose of every single one of the mitzvahs is to elevate the nefesh achayunas, is to elevate your nefesh to Hashem. So in every mitzvah, how much of your nefesh goes into mitzvah? Think about it. How much of your nefesh? You ate some kosher, you put up a mezuzah, you shook a lulav, you davened, you learned a little. Whatever mitzvah it may be, how much of your neshama went into that mitzvah? Sometimes the hand part of your neshama, the koyach in your hand, sometimes the koyach in your foot, sometimes the koyach in your mouth, sometimes the koyach in your ears, whatever it may be. But tzedakah, when you give tzedakah, you're giving your entire neshama, the whole nefesh achayunis, the entirety of your being that went into making that money, into making that dollar, that entire nefesh achayunis is elevated to Hashem. So if the purpose of every single mitzvah, as the Alter Rebbe is saying over here, the purpose of every single mitzvah is to elevate one's nefesh abahamis and one's nefesh achayunis to kedusha, there is no mitzvah that gets anywhere near to accomplishing that goal as much as the mitzvah of tzedakah. Mitzvah of tzedakah elevates the nefesh achayunis much more so than any other mitzvah. And it's a whole new perspective, because most people, you turn to them, you ask them, why is tzedakah so great? As we started off at the beginning of the class, because we have to help another person. And there's definitely a truth to that. One of the reasons why tzedakah is so important and so great is because it's for helping the other person. But the point Alter Rebbe is saying over here is a different point altogether. It's not about the other person, it's about me. The reason why tzedakah is so great is because it elevates me more so than any other mitzvah. Why? Because the entirety of me is in this dollar which I'm giving to tzedakah. Now, I should point out that there are a lot of mitzvahs that cost money, as I'm sure you all are very aware. Soon coming up to Pesach, and it's what they say, it costs Hashena Matbeya. It's not cheap. And there are many mitzvahs that cost money. We're coming up Purim, you want to buy yourself a nice Megillah, it's going to cost you money. Purim Suda costs you money. So why is it daf and l'chayra? The same logic should apply. Same logic that if the idea is that you're elevating, that when you take your money, which you put your neshama into, and you use it for kedusha, you're elevating not only the money, you're elevating everything that went into it, your entire being that went into that, into earning that money. So why only tzedakah? Why is only tzedakah the equivalent of all the mitzvahs? But I think the answer is somewhat obvious. At the end of the day, when you're spending the money on yourself, even if it's for mitzvahs and kedusha, it's not the same degree of bittul, of giving it away to Hashem, as it is when you actually take the money and you write the check, or today if you PayPal or whatever, wherever it is, and you give it to the poor person, or you give it to the moisid that needs the money. It's an entirely different level of parting with the money which you earn, and this is the greatness of the mitzvah of tzedakah.